when I think about being a kid of the '60s and the music I grew up with, I don't know if I ever told you guys, but the first two songs I purchased, I used to live on St. Anne and Claiborne in New Orleans, and that's one of the it's the heart and soul of the Tremie area, and Tremie is one of the oldest Black communities in the country. And there used to be, back in the old days, the drugstore is where you bought the records from. And the first two 45s, because I'm older than some people, but I'm not older than some of you people out there, and I'm looking at some names I won't call. Um, that's what we used to buy. 45s used to, I believe they were like either 50 cents or $1 at the time. And the first two songs I bought was Johnny Taylor. Now, hold on. Let me back up. Let me back up. Let me back up. I was about 9 years old. Okay. The first two songs I bought was Johnny Taylor, Who's Making Love, and The Temptations, Cloud Nine. And I don't know why these two songs. Johnny Taylor, I promise you, I don't know why I was into brown liquor music at the age of 9, but I just something about that song that just kind of struck a chord with me, resonated, and I bought it, and I bought Cloud Nine simply because I think this was the first song that Dennis Edwards did as the lead singer of The Temptation, and I just anything that Tim's did was hot, but this song was really hot. It was just hot, and I never even thought about what the song meant. And it's kind of funny because my I have I had an older brother and sister who were 18 and 17 years my senior, and they thought they were like a separate mom and dad for me, a surrogate mom or dad or whatever. And my older sister tried to tease me. She said, "Boy, what you know about that?" And I was like, I'm singing. And my brother said, "Do you know what they're singing about Cloud Nine?" I was like, "Yeah, he's singing about being happy and getting upbeat and doing this thing, having a good time." And then I got a little older and I started listening to the song. And I bring all of this up because the songs of the '60s, unlike even the '80s and the '90s, it wasn't about how much bling you had, how much money you had. They were social songs. And the song said, "The childhood part of my life wasn't very pretty, you see. I was born and raised in the slums of the city. It was a one-room shack that slept 10 other children beside me. We hardly had enough food or room to sleep. It was hard times. I was looking for something to ease my troubled mind." And I would sing along with the song and I would be doing the little temptation. Da-do, da-do. I would be doing these little songs because that was hot. But I didn't live that type of existence. So I just saw it as songs or poetry. And I remember the first time my brother was really into Marvin Gaye. That was his man, Marvin, probably because he could relate to Marvin's convoluted existence or what have you. Um, but I remember the first time I heard what's going on, just like I could remember the first time I heard The World is a Ghetto and, some of these songs. And I saw it around me, but I was oblivious to it. I would see homeless people sleeping at the downtown on the ground at the downtown bus station. There used to be a Continental Trailway bus station that was right around the corner from the library, and I would see these homeless people, but they were invisible to me, and I never paid attention to them until I went to Howard, and I'm in DC, and I remember this morning I jumped out of my car And I had, I'm funky fresh, man. I'm living the life. I've been in the military. I got this high powered job. I'm making all of this money. I'm driving a red Porsche. I'm at Howard University and I'm feeling myself. I'm ego tripping like a monster. I called my mom, and not everybody had a cell phone then. I mean, I had that old school in the car mounted, like, Miami Vice. And I called my mom and I said, "Ma, I said, you're not going to believe this." I said, "But I'm sitting in the car I've always wanted." I said, "I've got the US Capitol in my rearview mirror. I'm going to my apartment that sits on the top floor overlooking the DC skyline. And I'm talking on a $700 cell phone." And I said, "I'm not going to even talk about the kind of clothes I'm wearing and this Movado and all of this other stuff." And my mama said, what mamas always say, my mama, she paused. I could hear reflecting. She said, "Son, I told you, you work hard, you keep your nose clean, and you trust in God, and you'll be all right." And last week I said, "Mama, you were wrong." And for the most part, she was right, but she was wrong. And there were people who were living in a one-room shack 10, 11, 12 deep. There were people who were snorting and sniffing and shooting because they needed to go to a cloud nine because their everyday earthly existence just wasn't something that they could cope with. You understand what I'm saying? To me, it was just a record. It was a cool way of Dennis Edwards taking over the Temptations, and the harmony and the choreography and all of that was cool. And I thank God that my mom and my dad allowed me to be a child and not plague me with the problems of what was happening in that day and time. But then when I got older and I started listening to the words of Earth, Wind, and Fire and War and, you know, the Temptations and Marvin. And I remember on that cold winter morning back in October in 1995, when me and a guy by the name of Michael Anthony Boyd, Mike Boyd, used to be like a little brother to me. We got up and we drove from my apartment in Silver Spring to downtown DC. And going to downtown DC, we started seeing all of these cars with these out of town license plates. And what made this day special is this was the morning of the Million Man March. And brothers were waving at each other. And where you from, man? And blase, blase. And then we were going over the fence because it was on the same Capitol steps that the Trumpsters, the Trumpies, and the Trumpettes decided to try to take the government in a failed coup attempt. And as we went over those fences, I mean, brothers were stopping to help other brothers over the fence. And the most poignant thing that I saw that morning was a man with his son who was only about 4 years old on his shoulder. And he was standing next to his dad. And I said, wow, that's 3 generations. And the first song that they played that morning was Mother, Mother, There's Too Many of You Crying. And all of the things that I disliked about Farrakhan, him being the one who gave the order to kill Malcolm and blase, blase, and all of this, I felt like he was the only person that could pull off the Million Man March. And I said all of that to say this. The songs of that time resonate forever and ever and ever because they're still very relevant today. And that kind of takes me into tonight's show. I went off on a tangent and I figure everybody's here. I want to tell y'all good evening and welcome to the show. As always, I am truly humbled that you choose to spend your Thursday night with me. My show is called I Got Something to Say. so it must be true. I always say omit the logic. This shit makes no sense, but we got to get it done. My name is Hank Batiste. I'm your host tonight, and the voices in my head took me on a tangent because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I've been coming down hard, and we've all been coming down hard on these racist police departments, and we're tired of looking at black hashtags and Black Lives Matter, and we're fighting for equality. And being a growing up in the 60s and being coming to age in the 70s, it was the closest we came to a community. There were so many programs that were out there. The struggles of Malcolm and Martin and Huey Newton and Bobby Seale and Eldridge Cleaver and Thurgood Marshall and the sacrifice that Muhammad Ali made and so forth and so on. It just culminated in a real sense of community for the first time. Even those people that were starting to become black policemen, black professors, black congressmen, black judges, black mayors, and what have you, they had a sense of community and they were trying to make a change for us because I think they realized something that we always say, and it's a cliche, but it's so true. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Some of the voices in my head are sick and tired of being sick and tired. We come down hard on these racist police. Last week I talked about how the justice system of just us plays an integral role in how judges, black prosecutors, and black so-called defense attorneys and black DAs and so forth and so on are complicit in the harsh sentences that are handed out to us, and us being used as indentured servants or slaves because they know if a man can't pay his child support, if a man can't pay his rent, how the hell is he going to come up with $400 or $500 to pay bail? So now he's caught in the system. It was hard enough for him to find a job beforehand, so now it's nearly impossible. So I talked about that last week, but I wanted to reiterate it because it goes into this, and this is a carry-on of what I talked about last week. The true reason why what's happening here is more than just systematic racism. The real reason for black people being relegated to this crab in a barrel mentality, this crab in a barrel existence, is what's called a class system. Time and time again, I try to draw parallels between black peoples and Jews. Not because I dislike Jews, because I think Jews actually got it right. When you mess with one Jew, regardless to where he exist in that class system, you're messing with all Jews. But it's so easy for us to want to prove that we're unbiased, we're non-biased, that we're willing to do a job at the expense of someone. And we're quick to say, I was just doing my job. It's a cop-out, people. Time and time again, I draw this parallel because in the midst of slavery, Black Lives Matter, and systematic racism, in the midst of Jim Crow 1, 2, and now James Crow III, systematic racism is old as this democratic republic that we call America. Black people are still struggling to survive in a country that we beat, that we built, while other ethnicities are thriving. Survival, thriving. They're going off the chart, and we're pulling each other down with this crab in the barrel mentality. We're struggling. Conversely, the Jews have become an integral part of the American fabric. They become a political and an economic force to be reckoned with. One of the things that brought this on is I'm always flabbergasted when people just start to learn about Black history. I'm pissed when those people that are just starting to learn about Black people are Black folks themselves. So now everybody wants to talk about this Black Wall Street and what happened in Tulsa. Nobody talks about what happened in Rosewood. Nobody from New York. A lot of people from New York don't even know that Central Park used to be another Black Wall Street. It was a thriving Black community, and they moved them out of there. And they took over, and they made it into what it is today. And around that is the Upper East Side and Manhattan and all of these high rent districts. But again, this was areas that was built by us. So tonight we're going to talk about a broken judicial system. We're going to talk about classism in America, and we're still struggling to survive while other ethnic groups have figured out the simple cliche, an ethnic change, if you will, is only as strong as its weakest link. Poverty in the Black community is the leading cause of disenfranchisement. Black folks versus disillusioned, wealthy, affluent African Americans. Tonight's show is called The Curse of Black Folks, the Poor, and the Disenfranchised. Omit the logic, people. This shit makes no sense. I got something to say. My name is Hank Batiste. It must be true. Let's get with it. Divide and conquer. It's what I call the original American sin. Family, I could go off on a tangent and talk about my analysis of the crab in the bucket mentality, but I won't. I've already done that to some degree. I will say this: when Europeans, sea dogs, conquistadors, whatever they called themselves, arrived on the shores of Africa, when they landed on Plymouth Rock, when Columbus, in his 4 voyages to the New World, and incidentally, he never set foot on North America, Central and South America, when they landed on all of these foreign shores, they didn't know one hill from another. They didn't know one mountaintop from another mountaintop. All the trees in that thick forest, this dense jungle looked the same. It was Black men who acted as guides and sold each other for trinkets. And the same thing is happening today. I bring up this realism of us guiding the other man to selling each other out. Why? Because it's the original sin that we, as Americans, newfound Americans, brought here, that separated and divided us. History has shown us that the original sin against our own is the key to divide and conquer. Today, like a lot of days, folks, I met this young brother. If you're from New Orleans, I went to make grocery. If you're from anywhere else, I went to the market to shop for grocery. And I make light of it, but as I'm coming out of the store, I'm loading the stuff into my car, and this young brother walks up and he says, "Thank you, sir. I'll take that basket for you." And I was so moved, I just looked at him. I said, and I saw his name tag on, and I said, "Are you in school?" He says, "Yes, sir." I say, "What are you studying?" And he stumbled and he says, "I don't know what I want to study just yet." I said, "Okay, just stick to 6 hours a semester, okay? Do that for me. What are you good at?" He said, "Football." I said, "Okay." I went to school with Marshall Falk. This is what I told the young man. I said, I know a lot of brothers who were as good, if not better. I know, and I won't go into the long, drawn-out conversation as me and this young man had for 10 minutes. But I told him, I said, let's look beyond your football career. Let's say that you make it. Let's say that you don't make it. What do you see the average football player has a 5 to 10 year career. So let's call it 7 years. So if you start playing at the age of 22, by the age of 27 to 30, you're done. Then what? I said, look at what a lot of them are doing today, and it might give you some clues as to what you can study. You see a lot of these brothers going into what we call mass communications, and they wind up sitting behind the desk on ESPN. He said, yeah. I said, so look at mass communication. I say the other thing is you see a lot of these brothers going out and becoming entrepreneurs. I say, so look at business. Work for yourself. Don't work for anybody else. He says, man, he says, sir, thank you. I really needed that today. I said, young man, let me just tell you something. I'm going to share this with you, and then I'm going to let you get back to work. There is no such thing as a coincidence. It takes a set of circumstances to create a situation that we call fate, a destiny. I say, so you have to be here collecting baskets. I have to be here at this specific time in a frame of mind to engage you. And you have to be in a mindset to listen and absorb. I said, so this was not a coincidence. He looked at me. I said, now, his name was Trayon. I said, Trayon, I'm going to keep my eye on you. I'll be coming here. I come to here at least once a week. So now I know when you kind of work, I'm going to be looking for you. He says, thank you, sir. Thank you. I said all of that to say this. Growing up, that was my New Orleans. There were people who knew my parents, and there were people that I thought knew my parents because the love they showed me. That was our village. But we strayed away from that. Those Black attorneys, those Black judges, those Black politicians, they no longer feel a sense of community. They no longer see themselves as belonging to the village. So our existence has deteriorated to what it is now. That leads me into something I call the disillusionment of Black wealth. When these folks get a certain amount of money, they feel like their money makes them less Black. Malcolm X once said, and I might get kicked off for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. He asked the question, he said, what do you call a Black doctor? What do you call a Black millionaire? One person said doctor. The other one said rich. He says, no, the N-word. But he didn't say the N-word. And my point to you is time and time again, we've seen Black icons, whether it was Michael Jackson or Bill Cosby, we're reminded that no matter how wealthy they are, you're still Black. And silent, behind closed doors, you're still an N-word. So what Malcolm said made a lot of sense. Powerful leaders and political figures, be it Dr. King or John Conyers, and pretty soon nobody will not know who John Conyers was. Nobody will know who Maynard Jackson was. If you're from New Orleans, you might know Mark, but you don't know his dad, Dutch Moriel, and some of a PBS pinchback. The only time we hear about people like this is in February, if you're lucky. I reach out to a lot of these young Black men. I reach out to Black men as a whole, not because they are me or they're related to me. I reach out to them because I can relate to them. I reach out to them because somebody helped me. And it's not always a person of color. So it's not even about that. But I feel a sense of me. If not me, then who? If not now, then when? When you go into a court, when you go into any kind of public arena, I tell the young men, don't have your pants hanging off you. Not because we don't want to see you behind, and that's true, but because somebody's going to judge you prematurely. They don't know that you have a 4.0. They don't know that you have this talent statistic. So you've discounted yourself at first thought, at first glance. Sadly, when I go to court, I try to look like I come from something. And how it's interpreted by the black judge, by the black prosecutor, by the black DA, by the black, by the black, by the black, by the black, is, oh, this Negro, the other word, it's got money. So if the judge was handing out fines of $50, I promise you mine gonna be $500 or $750. And even when I don't wear a shirt and tie, if I just wear a button-down shirt and some simple shoes and I try to look plain, as soon as I open my mouth, they say, oh, it's an educated Negro, $750. Pay the man out front. Excuse me? And I feel like Richard Pryor. What's wrong, buddy? Want some more time? And I'm always flabbergasted. Being black, being poor makes us disenfranchised. Don't disillusion yourself. Though we teach our kids to strive for having something and carrying themselves a certain way. Unlike when I was growing up, the first conversation you have with your child, whether you live in the projects or whether you live in a $600,000 house, and more so when you live in a $600,000 house, you say, if you get stopped. Once upon a time, my mama told me, she said, be good, keep your nose clean, trust in God, and you'll be all right. And I said that was a lie. It wasn't the total truth because it no longer applies. You can treat your child to be respectful. But nowadays, you're not telling them keep your nose clean and stay out of trouble and trust in God. You're telling them even when you see flashing lights, turn down the music, put your hands on the steering wheel, keep your driver's license, your registration, and your insurance on that visor so that you don't have to reach. Folks, we're doing it to ourselves. The songs of the 60s, it told a story. It's poignant. It's still relevant today, but it's relevant for all the wrong reasons. It's relevant because we've made our own hell. We are the reason. We feel like if we have the money, we're going to be treated differently. Just last year, a black district attorney in Orlando got pulled over by the cops. And when she said who she was, the cop didn't believe her. So, yeah, right, you're the district attorney. I don't know you. I just pull your license plate. I just called in your tags, and it comes in unmentionable. Why is that? Because, fool, I'm the district attorney, and not anybody can just search my tags. Get your supervisor. That no longer works. If you can't call a supervisor, if you can't have somebody, you need to tell somebody in that audience, okay, 3 of y'all can film me. Well, one person I need to call 911 and say that we are at the corner of First and Main. I need a supervisor over here because there are 4 cruises here and this shit is accelerating. and there's not a thing that anybody can do about it. We create the black judges, the black police, the blacks, unlike the Jews. We create. We are complicit. So Black Lives Matter don't mean nothing until it means something to us. We're always talking about black on black crime on the street. Okay, these guys they've made a choice how they're going to live. And some of them have made that choice because the only people that's hiring is Pookie and Ray Ray. Because some black judge has put them in a situation where they can no longer get a student loan. So they can't go to school. Some of them can't even get a license to be a barber. So what you expect them to do? Because the one thing they still gonna want to do is be with Shaniqua, Shanae, or somebody. We created this, folks. Once upon a time, we were getting it right. Once upon a time, we had responsible people like the Marvins and the Donny Hathaways and the Muhammad Alis and the so forth and so on. As much as I hate to see LeBron flop, I got to give the brother props for speaking up, even though it was easier for him to do because Kaepernick had already made the sacrifice. It was easy for him to do because the Bill Russells and the Jim Browns and the Muhammad Alis had already made the sacrifice. Now it's popular. When it becomes popular, now those wealthy African Americans want to get on the bandwagon and talk about what they can do and how Black Lives Matter. You can't even get a prominent attorney to write a letter unless you can give them $1,500, $2,000 for 15 minutes of their time, when they could easily pick up the phone and end your suffering. In the Black community, our community link is only as strong as its weakest link. That's the poor, that's the Black, that's the disenfranchised. Folks, I'm gonna wrap it up. I had some more I wanted to say, but I don't want to go off, and I'm full now. I'm full. I need to de-stress. So I'm gonna tell you, everybody hearing my voice, reach out to those. You're gonna meet a young man in a grocery store. You're gonna be, and the thing about it, I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna close this out. My kids, I used to tell my son, I said, son, how is it you can do all of this stuff with computers when you never had a computer science class? You don't know a computer language. Back in the days, it was Fortran, it was BASIC, it was Cobalt. How do you know this? He said, Dad's dessert. I said, son, that's a gift. So use that gift wisely. Oh, Dad, you're supposed to say that. You're my dad. Huh. It's easier to impress on someone when you have no vested interest in this person's future. That young man looked at me and he says, why did you even choose to speak to me? I said, it's because of how you spoke to me. When you said, thank you, sir, I'll take that. I said, here's a young man who has potential. Here's a young man whose mother, whose father, whose family, who's somebody, or maybe he's doing it alone. Maybe it's in spite of his mother and his father. Maybe his mom is on, maybe his dad is in, I don't know. But there was something about this young man's heart that spoke to me. When they speak to you, speak to it. Each one teach one so each one can reach one. That's all I got for you tonight. As always, go to my YouTube, sign up, hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up. This is only part of the thing here. This is only half of it. I'm taking this show on the road. I'm going to bigger and better venues. I just got so much going on right now. I will say this. I'm in the process of looking at a house. That's hard work. I'm in the process of trying to get this business off the ground. That's hard work. I'm in the process of making a difference in the community. That's hard work. Go to my YouTube, turn somebody on to what I have to say. Omit the logic. This shit makes no sense. What makes no sense is because if they took the 5 to 10 to 15 minutes to make a difference in somebody's life, I don't know what that young man is doing right now, but I know he had a pep in his step after we finish. And I know even more so, my heart was full. We're at a stage in our life where we can make a difference in other people's lives. Let's do that. Each one teach one so each one can reach one. That's the only way we can exercise the original sin of selling each other out and end this crabs in the barrel. If we're gonna get out the barrel, let's not go from the barrel into the pan. Okay? That's all I got for you tonight, folks. It's always important. I wish you love. I wish you peace. I'll see you here next week. Same